Hey everyone. Recently there have been reports that the 50th Super Bowl cost the city of San Francisco between 4.1 million and 4.9 million in service costs. Since 4.1 million has been the number most bandied around, I'm going to use that. But what bothered me was no one bothered to check and determine what the revenue throw off from the Super Bowl would be within the city of San Francisco. So I thought, well, what is going to be the impact of hotel use in San Francisco? That was my first thought. Why hotel use? Because looking at increase in hotel use is the most logical way to determine how a city is actually impacted. In other words, if you seek hotels in San Francisco and you stay in San Francisco, it means your money's in San Francisco, and therefore we can easily record those activities. It's a little different from sales tax revenue because it's hard to determine where the tax revenue came from. Did it come from a Super Bowl tourist? Did it come from, say, someone visiting from Oakland? You get the idea. But with a hotel tax, you know that, okay, maybe the person came from X or Y or Z, but you know they're staying in San Francisco. You know that. And you know that if they're staying in San Francisco in a hotel, it's very unlikely that they're going to live or have a dwelling in Oakland that they're not using during the Super Bowl. I live in Oakland, for example. I'm going to stay in Oakland and not the hotel, either in Oakland or San Francisco. You get the idea. So, with that, I came up with a very logical formula, which, if you think about it, is not an unusual one at all. It goes like this: the hotel tax revenue total that would be gained is the result of, first of all, the average room rate times the number of rooms times the occupancy rate times the tax rate times a price increase factor, which I'll explain in a second, times the number of days in the Super Bowl period. So all of that put together, those 7 factors, are combined to produce the final revenue. Now, you have to then have basically 2 lines in a spreadsheet, because I've developed a spreadsheet for this. The first is the baseline. The baseline occupancy rate for the January 30th to February 7th period in San Francisco for hotels is, it hovers around 75%, roughly. During the summer, it kicks up to 90%. This is over the last 10 years. The Super Bowl is going to cause an increase there. According to Bloomberg's survey with cheap hotels last year, the average room rate in San Francisco is $397. That's right. That's average 2015. $397. Think about that. There are 3,462 hotel rooms, if memory serves, from my spreadsheet, which you can check on the spreadsheet, which is part of the accompanying blog post. The hotel tax rate is 14%. And the increase factor that I talk about, well, I set it at 30%, but many reports have it that Super Bowl room rates in the Bay Area already are at an average of 124% greater than their norm. You heard me correctly. But I stuck with 30% because that result of 124% produces some really astronomical figures that serve as the outlier, I believe. The reality is more like 30%. Now, with all of that, what I discovered was that the baseline revenue for the 7-day Super Bowl period, 4 days for the Super Bowl minimum of hotel booking, plus 3 to reflect that people will start flying in on Monday, hotels, until they're getting into hotels. Super Bowl media day is Tuesday. Parties and events start to ramp up as we move toward the Super Bowl on February 7th. Okay. But what I discovered was that during a baseline of that period where there's no Super Bowl, you're looking at a revenue throw off of about $9.7 million. $9.7 million. The actual more exact numbers in the spreadsheet and in the text. But with the Super Bowl, with the 30% increase in rooms, with an increase from 75% occupancy to 90%, we're looking at revenue of $15.2 million. That's right. $15.2 million. An increase of over $5 million, about roughly $5.4 million, thereabouts. Now, that's when all the other numbers behind are added there. But the bottom line is the number is greater by far than the 4.1 million that's needed, roughly about 1.3 million greater approximately. I discovered in my spreadsheet that I could actually go down to 84% occupancy levels and still achieve a revenue difference that would, from the hotel tax alone, pay for the service costs for San Francisco. Now, these estimates are really easy for anyone to do. It just takes a little attention and thinking. I jumped in because the San Francisco mayor's office sort of, I think maybe everyone's busy, but they left the host committee kind of out to dry from a PR perspective and needed assistance. Now, who am I to, what's my agenda? Well, first of all, from 1999 to 2001, I headed the effort to bring the Super Bowl to Oakland. We lost to Jacksonville. And if you're saying, yeah, you really didn't do that, well, let me show you something here. This not so little doodad just, oh, there goes my YouTube sign, just so happens to be, voila, as you're looking at it. This is a seat plan for the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum for the Super Bowl that I had put together by Anderson Consulting Team. See? Ta-da. That's just one of a number of goodies I've got here that go back to when I headed the Super Bowl effort. I've got other stuff too. And let me get my YouTube sign. There. Put it right back there where it belongs. Ding. There we go. Now, so my agenda is pretty much the same as it was in part when I was heading the Oakland Super Bowl effort. It's to correct media misinformation. In this case, there's a ton of it. All anyone has to do is, well, what I did. The information that I quote and present in my text and in my spreadsheet is available online. There are no tricks here. The math is simple. It only concerns a 7-day Super Bowl period. That's it. So, why not do the math? I understand the concern of Board of Supervisors members Jane Kim and Aaron Peskin, both friends. They are right to be concerned about it. But it's also equally right to present them with the figures that show where the revenue is coming from. Maybe they want to earmark the revenue. You'd say, where does that hotel tax money generally go? As I understand it, it goes, at least in part, to Visit San Francisco, the San Francisco version of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Well, why not earmark that increase to pay for services for San Francisco? The host committee, not the host committee, but Visit San Francisco would still come away with what would be its normal grab, but it would also be able to help pay for those services as well. The bottom line is The Super Bowl will bring the focus to San Francisco and the region. There will be enough demand here. You have to remember something, that enough demand here to pay for services and then some. Note, I didn't include sales tax revenue. I didn't include even revenue from moving violations. As much as we talk about police being hired to work overtime, we seem to forget the fact that they're actually writing tickets that produce revenue. We complain about it in other occasions, but not this time, right? So the money will be there. It really will. But again, there's nothing wrong with just plain old crunching the numbers to see how all this works out. It's all there right before us. The Super Bowl, again, I repeat, will pay for itself and then some. Not only did I not include the sales tax revenue, there are other fees and charges that will come up that weren't included in my calculation. But again, and for reasons I stated at the beginning of the video, and I will repeat, I focused on hotel occupancy rates because the action of staying in a hotel in the city and its concomitant money expenditures is the best expression of how much money a city can gain from visitors for an event during that period. That's why I did it. By contrast, with sales tax, you could have a Super Bowl party downtown, but it's hard to tell unless you have somebody fill out a register if they came from Carolina or New England or Oakland or San Jose to spend their money in San Francisco. And then someone could argue, well, they already would have been in San Francisco spending their money to do something else if they came from someplace in the Bay Area. But with a hotel, it really stretches logic to say that every person that lives in Oakland is not going to stay home and they're going to rent a hotel in San Francisco for the Super Bowl. It's more likely that they may want to rent out their apartment on Airbnb for the Super Bowl in Oakland. You get what I'm saying? So there we are. Again, nothing wrong with doing homework. In fact, it's the heart of what bloggers do. Homework and math. Okay, now I'm getting a little carried away. See ya.